Welcome, everybody. I have with me a special guest who I have finally gotten to meet sort of in person. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is Zenobia, who is a very popular singer here in Albuquerque, and she has an amazing background. So let's get started on this because I have a lot of questions for you. Zenobia, you go by just Zenobia, right? Is that actually a stage name or is that your given name?
Oh, it's my given name. I'm fourth of five Zenobias in the family.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Okay. Um, well, I have to ask.
Oh, I'm glad
It's
you did.
it's a very unique name. So you're from the LA area, correct? Where in
Correct.
LA are you from? Because that's a really, really big city.
It is. I was born in a hospital in LA, East LA, and eventually my mother remarried and decided it was a good idea for us to move to Inglewood.
So when you were young, you started singing in your church choir. Was that your first basic introduction to music?
Well, actually, I started singing solo. My grandmother played piano and she took care of me after mom went back to work. And my cousin, Dolly, played rock and roll, though grandma played church music. And so I was in the music. And I remember one day in kindergarten, or was it nursery school? They were both in the same building. A teacher put on a rock and roll record on the record player. And for those of you who remember what a record player is, and I stood up and I was like, I know that music. And I just felt the gush, the passion, the urgency to be a part of it.
Mhm.
And that was basically it. But in church, they chose me. I don't remember asking how I felt about it, and I don't remember ever saying no. They gave me a solo to sing, and the choir was an adult choir, Black gospel choirs, all adult.
Mm.
It was incredible because I'd sing "Satisfied," and they go "Satisfied with Jesus," and I'm like, that was big.
Oh,
And I don't
I
think
love
I don't think I went to any rehearsal because it was past my bedtime. Uh,
right.
but that was my first experience.
There's a big difference between what I grew up with listening to and stuff and black gospel. And black gospel, if you don't get your feet moving, something's wrong with you.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you on that. It changed my life. That experience.
I
I
bet
mean,
it did.
I still had no idea who I was, what I was doing, and why what I was doing it. I was just doing it and feeling it.
Yeah,
That
and
was
that's what
it.
matters. Now,
Yeah.
you also play piano. Did you learn to play piano at a young age too?
Well, because grandma and my cousin Dolly played piano, I started playing by ear.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I like to add back to the Baptist church, there were times that mom would, we had no boom mics. So someone had to pick me up always to sing. Because the mic couldn't go low enough and you couldn't see me behind the pulpit. Um, but we would walk towards the back and mom would go, "Oh, Johnny Otis is here. Johnny Otis." And I went, "Oh, yeah." I used to watch him with grandma. So I knew who he was. But
Right.
he seemed to come around whenever I was singing in, the solos.
Uh-huh.
And I found out like a couple of years ago, Tracy and I did a show for honoring uh, Johnny Otis tribute. It was for the New Mexico Jazz Workshop. And I learned more and more that Etta sang around the same area in LA as my church was where I was singing. I don't know if she
Etta
ever sang
as
at our
in
church.
when you say Etta as in Etta James?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I thought I said Etta James.
No.
Yes,
Oh my God, really?
yes. So I had no idea. So of course he discovered her, and then I realized, oh my gosh, for him to come to the church and listen to me, the church that is still standing, to listen to me as a child was an honor. And I,
Absolutely.
but I had no idea until a couple years ago.
See, look at that.
I mean,
You know, Eddie,
I live my life with blinders. Just do what you're supposed to do. Look ahead. Don't look at the sidelines. And to some degree, I'm sorry that I didn't take the blinders off because I missed a lot of things on the sidelines that I wanted to participate in.
That's okay. So you when you were singing and you were learning piano, are there any other instruments that you also play? Because I've heard a rumor that you play like a lot of instruments, and I'm just curious because we're gonna get to all the other stuff here in just a little bit. But
Sure, sure, sure.
do you play a lot? Do you play other instruments?
Well, at one point, when and also included all the little percussion instruments, because local musicians union you got bells here. That's a fee. You pay the tambourine here. That's a job, and I mean it goes on and on. At one point, I played over 100 instruments,
Oh my
and
God.
some would say, "Well, I need a bass player," and I said, "Oh, for a show off Broadway." I go, "Okay, I play bass." And I didn't own a bass, and I'd walk down. I lived in Manhattan, and I was like, okay. And I see this guy, Richie, who is a bass player. I'm like, "Do you have extra bass?" And he goes, "Yeah." So then I showed up to the gig with a bass. Someone needed a flute. He says, "I have a flute." The music director, "I have a flute. Learn how to play it." And I'd go, just little avant-garde stuff. That's all I could admit to. And it was so much of my life. Whenever somebody needed somebody to play something and there was nobody speaking up, I kind of go, well, I could probably work my way around that instrument and then show up and play it.
Now you also played. You're actually rather fluent on guitar, aren't you?
Well, I was a folk singer for a long time. And I say folk because at the young age, 16, in Los Angeles or Hollywood, I played at Taria Lee's coffee house. Now I forget the name of it, but it was she was a folk singer. Jimmy Dean, I think Jimmy Dean was his name, not the sausage guy, but the other folk singer. And he would have her on his show. And so she found a coffee house, literally coffee, where you can sit there and play. So she allowed me and my other bandmates to come and make some music, but I couldn't go, towards the alcohol and couldn't tell my age.
And I watched some of your YouTube videos. There's one of you playing piano. There's one of you playing guitar. There's one of you singing. And I'm thinking, how many instruments can someone play? No, you do play a lot of instruments. You just very quickly pick them up very easily, don't you?
Well, I hope to think so. I mean, I know I did. It's just so much room that you can keep instruments in the house.
You ended up on, from when you were young, right? You ended up on the Broadway production of Hair, but there's a backstory behind that. So tell me how all of that came about, how it started in LA and how you ended up in New York.
How did you know there was a backstory?
Oh, I know because I do my research.
Wow. Well, this is going to be in the book that I'm working on, where I really tell people I auditioned for Hair because I had a suicide pact with my best friend, Herbie, in high school. We were fed up with our families. We found no other outlet, even though we both loved music and still has an ear that's incredible. And we can sing anything together. We just had it. So we made a date and a time to do it. And he called, it was like a Thursday was our deadline. And on the night before, he called me up and I was like, "What's going on?" He goes, "Well, I couldn't wait for Thursday. I tried last night." And I was like, "Oh, really?" I didn't go into how dare you, all that kind of stuff. I was really concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a car. And so my then boyfriend and girlfriend, boyfriend who had a car, we went up on the weekend on a Saturday. And we went up to Hollywood. He was in they call it a rest home, rest haven, actually. And I walked into the lobby and I saw this beautiful black baby grand piano. And no offense to Herbie, he knows I love him. I jumped on the piano and my friend said, "Okay, Z, we'll find Herbie and we'll bring him to you." And I got on the piano and I played Close to You by the Carpenters.
Yep, Karen Carpenter, yep.
And this voice came out of nowhere and singing with me. And I looked around and there were some pillars. And then out from the pillar is this beautiful Broadway actress or Hollywood actress, Melody Santangelo. She was working there, I guess, receptionist part-time, which is what actors do. And she was beautiful, dressed in this sexy cowgirl shirt, and her beautiful blonde curly hair and sparkling blue eyes. And I was like, oh my God. And she said, and she finished the song with me and she said, Zenobia, she's from New York. Zenobia, I have an audition for hair and I want you to play for me. And I'll set you up an audition also. And I'm like, okay, great, whatever. Hair. Was it a musical with, about Cousin It? I had no idea. As much as I wanted to grow and learn, and as much as I had in certain ways, worldly, I was not.
Rather sheltered, as I would say.
Yes, absolutely. So Melody arranged time for us for me to rehearse. I said, I don't have a piano to bring to your house. I'll play on guitar. So I played guitar. She's, I think it was a Linda Ronstadt song. I don't know da, for a long, long time. Well, they hired her right away. They love Melody. They didn't hire me right away. It came to September, and I was enrolled into El Camino College, City College in Torrance, California. And I was like, I don't like this. This doesn't feel familiar to me because my people were not in my classes. None of the people I knew for at least 4 years. I knew nobody. And the acting class, drama class, it was a clique. They got all these people obviously knew each other. And I ended up sitting up in the back row in the auditorium. And so I just, you know what? I got to make a phone call. I called the theater and I said, are you going to hire me or aren't you going to hire me? It was the only time I had chutzpah, It's like, okay, what's going on? And they put me on hold. I was speaking to the stage manager, Rusty, who I'm still friends with.
Nice.
He said, I'll put you on hold. Hold on. And he came back and said, Zenobia, call us tomorrow. I said, oh, okay, fine, I'll do that. So I went to college the next day and I came home and called them. And he said, congratulations, you're in. Come tomorrow, see the show, sign the contract.
And that was it.
I kind of did this to El Camino and those students who thought I was worthless, or they thought I was worthless anyway. And, they have you at the head office sign, why are you leaving? Going to Broadway show.
I'm going to go act.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes, I got a show. And that was it. I left that behind. And then I did not have any rehearsal. I saw the show one night, literally, as Rusty said, come see the show. And I saw the nude scene, which wasn't as big a deal as everybody had made it out to be. And I was like, oh, I could do that. It's only like a couple of minutes. And I saw how everybody in the audience knew the show, what we equate to now the movie Rocky Horror Show. Where you not only see the movie, but you get a show.
Right.
And people were like singing and dancing. And it was just tremendous. So the next night I was on without a rehearsal.
So how long were you doing this in the LA area? And how did you end up in Broadway with this?
Divine order. The show was about to close a couple of, believe it or not, weeks later. And it was an incredible experience for me. I knew it was, but I didn't know how big it would become because you don't know when you're in it. I took those memories with me and I said, okay, the show's over. What am I going to do now? I got a phone call one day and Armand Coulet, our company manager, said, well, we're going to New York and we want you to come along. Nice. Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Nothing about New York. I said, sure. I was 18. I was like, okay, let's do this. So I got ready to go to New York. And the last thing I remember is I'm at the LAX and Mom is talking to the older hair tribe members, Teddy Neely and his girlfriend at the time, Kay Cole, who's a Broadway baby. And please watch my daughter. And they're like, okay, we will. It was wonderful because my guitar had its own seat on the airplane. And we landed December 6th, 1970. And
you were doing this right during the late 60s, early 70s. Yeah, oh my goodness, right during the Vietnam War, right during...
Oh, well, that was the purpose of hair.
Yes, I know, it was.
Yeah, I had no idea.
And this was all, anti-culture, anti-war, anti-everything. So this
Yeah.
was right during that time. So now you joined the you were part of the cast on the Broadway version of Hair. So how long did you do that?
Oh, Broadway, we closed July 2nd, 1972. And
Okay.
I had grown up a lot because I found backstage there'd be guys with draft cards backstage hoping to talk to somebody. What should I
Hmm.
do? Should I kill myself? Should I go to war? Should I go to Canada? Should I, and I don't have answers for people. So, I think at one point the hotel president around the corner where I was living at the time thought I was a prostitute because I'd bring these guys in so they could talk,
Right.
so they could be heard.
Right.
I had no idea what it would turn into. I don't even know what they did. It wasn't my decision. I just wanted to provide a place. So that moved me. And then we would, of course, the movie stars I didn't meet in LA, I met in New York who came to see the show. People come up on the stage afterwards and sing with us. That was just amazing. So we closed and I ended up, I think, going on the road with Godspell, another show I kept auditioning for.
Right. Right. And
And
that's what I
then
was going to say is you toured with Hair, you toured with Godspell, and you also toured with Jesus Christ Superstar.
yeah.
That was, I mean, that's quite the experience if you ask me. I mean, I know all three of the shows, and all three of those shows are very much have something to say. And that's interesting that you were involved with all three. So how long did you tour with these three different touring groups?
Oh gosh, probably the 78, on and
Okay.
off, from one show to another.
Okay.
And I was still doing backup singing at the time, so I toured with other singers. I never really asked myself the question, are you serious about this acting and singing thing? I just took what came to me. I was so grateful because I love to work. I don't know how that happened, but I love to support and put things together. I love giving people work when I had work to give.
So let's talk about some of the other things you did because you used to work at an ad agency, right?
Oh, quite a few of them.
So what did you do? You said you kind of took things as they came to you. What did you do for the ad agencies? I'm assuming you wrote ads, you played music, you were being a creative mind because back in the 70s and the early 80s, ad agencies wrote all their own stuff. So I'm assuming that's what you did.
That's not what I did.
What did you do?
An employment agency, I think it's Eastern, and the guy Cliff handles advertising business. So I called him up and I said, Cliff, I type 52 words a minute. He goes, good, I have a job for you. And so I was a secretary in account management, which is not my speed, or I'm not their speed. But I was there for a while. And then a friend of mine who I worked with in insurance, his partner worked in HR at Y&R. And he came down to me and says, Zenobia, I have an opening in the music department as a secretary to the head of the music department. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. Interview me if you want. I'm interested, whatever. And so I interviewed. I got the job. I didn't tell the boss guy that I had been in music or theater or anything. I just said, oh, I type. And I'm thinking, I pictured myself playing piano. So I don't think I was lying too much because we only had the IBM Selectric 2 and 3.
Right.
Oh, yeah. La, 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 la.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm surprised it took this long for me to find you because you're hysterical. So you're working. So you're working. You're doing all this stuff, and you're singing background, and you are. This is all this time you're in New York. And one of the things that came your way that I happened to find was that when it came to the video and the song, It's Raining Men. Were you an original Weather Girl, or did you tell me about this? Because I looked this up and I said, no, you got to be kidding me. No, I'm not kidding. You were on that, weren't you?
Yeah, my name's on the label.
What?
Yes.
Tell me how this came about because I actually went to YouTube and I looked it up and I started watching the video and I had forgotten how corny it is.
Well, before Two Tons of Fun, Martha Wash and Izora, I forgot her last name, before they were chosen, because they were Two Tons of Fun with Sylvester,
Right.
a big, gay, incredible singer. And at that time, humongous. And then I think he died. And Paul Jabara, who I only knew as the composer of It's Raining Men. I didn't know Paul Schaefer was a co-writer also until years later, until he put me in his book. I was like, what? So Paul and I met because one day in LA, a block of patrons wanted to invite us to their party in Torrance. Remember that name, Torrance, California?
Yes.
And our elders, Teddy Neely and everybody, they're like, okay, these people bought so many tickets. We should, show kindness of our heart and show up and then whatever, leave. And we had a matinee the next day. Well, those people planted drugs in the party. And of course, I thanked my curfew because I was home sleeping. And all those good people from the show who showed up got arrested. So the producers and everybody of Hair in LA got on the phone right away and called up whoever they could that was available to come in and play the matinee at least. And so Paul Jabara walked in, and that's when I met him. He played Wolf. He says, I have a song I'd like you to sing. And I had no idea anything else Paul had done or was going to do, of course. So I went in and I sang it at his house on his piano, played a tape. And he said, great, come to the session, blah, blah, blah. So I went to the session and I sang the song. And I can't tell you how many times I went into the studio to sing it. And it was with a couple other friends of mine who backup singers also. And then he had me go to sing it at Raquel Welch's birthday party at Studio 54 one night. And he had me on this overhead kind of something that rolled across the stage or the dance floor. And he didn't tell me that they were going to hit live. And I'm singing, it's raining. No! They had me like moving over the floor. I'm afraid of heights. And I had nothing to hold on to. I had nothing to hold on to. So I turned around and looked at some of the men who were standing, part of the song, dancing behind me. Their bodies were greased up. They were Chippendales guys. And I was like, okay, just focus on them. And that's only how I got through it. I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, I debuted the song in 1982, that same year, probably that even same day, in Central Park for Gay Pride. And that was, I didn't know that would become a big thing too. So years later, Paul showed up, Hair, we had an open invitation for those of us in Hair to sing at the UN. And I don't remember why. I don't remember why, but we showed up, we rehearsed, and we are rehearsing the show, and we come back, and all of a sudden there's B. Arthur. She's going to sing Margaret Mead's I Would Just Like to Say That It Is My Conviction. And then you find out she's a man at the end. So it was her. Chuck Mangione played one of the songs, instrumental. Donna Summer came in for that. And so Paul showed up with his friend Beverly D'Angelo, who did the movie, Hair, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Beverly, I want you to meet Zenobia. She's one of the original Weather Girls. I went, ding! From his mouth to my ears. I would not put anything on my resume that's not true.
It's not that I doubt it. It's not that I doubt it in the slightest. I'm like, wait, what? And I'm looking and I'm typing through, and if you look up Weather Girl and you look up the thing, your name's on there. But I was like, oh, that's hysterical, because now you're not in the commercial release form or the video at all, are you?
No.
Okay.
Because when they hired the two women,
Two Tons of Fun.
I'm referring to them as Two Tons of Fun.
Right.
They are incredible singers. Yeah. I thought it was the best thing Paul could have ever done. And it was by the grace of God, he kept my vocals on there, and he put my name on the label.
That's funny.
I was shocked.
That is so funny. Oh my God. Oh, that is too funny. So let's go. We're going to switch gears here a little bit. We're going to talk about something that I know affected you. And there's a reason why I'm asking this, because you were in New York for 9/11 in 2001. Mm-hmm. You were there. And I understand that affected you both mentally and physically to be there. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure, sure, I can.
I mean,
Um,
it is totally up to you. I would just so you have a background. I was an air traffic controller for 32 years. I was
oh,
working that day. Tell me what about that day that affected you the most?
well, it was first of all disbelief. I'm on the phone with my mother who retired to Las Vegas, Nevada from LA. And I'm like, Mom, I know a tower got hit. We think it's a kid, some rich bored kid in a Cessna. That's what the word was. And then as we're talking, I had NBC on and we saw the second plane hit the second tower. So I said, well, I don't think it's a kid with a Cessna. I'll talk to you later, but I'm fine so far. Bye. So I leave the apartment. I'm up on 204th Street, which is considered way uptown, right before Riverdale or the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on the subway, and on right before I get on, another neighbor who I know is EMT. She's got her EMT clothes on. She's got the ambulance right there. I said, I don't know what's going on downtown, but I wish you luck. And well, I did see her, but months later, and she was fine. We all got in the train, the subway, and everybody. I mean, New Yorkers are not loud and chatty unless they're fighting or laughing real loud. But this was a different kind of silence. I took the train from 207th Street on the A train, and we got down to Harlem, which is 125th Street, and the train stopped. And then we all started looking at each other and said, "Did you hear? Did you hear? Yes. Did you hear?" And they finally let us go because they were finally able to. They were discharging all the subway cars at 125th, so we had to wait our turn. We get up on the street, and of course, it was open for Bible thumping people to go, it's the end of the world kind of crap. And I'm like, and behind this one guy, I see the smoke above his head. It's the first time I see it real time. And I try to make my way back home. My phone's not working. Sprint. And I think the Sprint tower could afford to be on the first tower. So we had no phone service for a long time. And I made it home just to check the news. And just sat there in disbelief. I didn't know who to talk to, but I walked from 125th to 204th. That's kind of, I mean, it's a chunk of walking, though you do a lot
Mm-hmm.
of walking in New York. But that was a stressful walk for me. Got home and, did whatever we could do. Still didn't know what was happening. Went back to work. I mean, I was thinking, proximity. Oh, that happened downtown. I can still go to Midtown. I'm around the corner from Grand Terminal Station, where
Mm-hmm.
the trains coming in up, and then you got the UN just a couple of blocks away. So I go back the next morning, and they've got new security in the building, and we go in there and we start comparing stories, and then more and more stories started to come in. People couldn't find their loved ones, their friends. Grand Central Terminal was filled with photographs of missing loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big, people are great at doing memorials. This was a memorial that was personal. I had a friend that a friend of mine needed a phone call. She became a casting director, and I called the office and I go, "Where is she?" She says, "Well, her brother died in the tower." Later found out his office said, "Don't move, stay at your desk. The building's about to fall and you're going to stay at your desk." Well, he did. He stayed at his desk, and that was it. And I was just so upset. There's horrible stories. I don't think I want to tell you because I don't want
That's
your
okay.
listeners to go crazy. But I knew somebody. I was a biker at the time, so we knew a lot of bikers. I knew one that was a fighter, and he went into the lobby, and the building collapsed and blew him blocks away.
Mm-hmm.
He had all his gear on, but he ended up with glass shards in his eyes, and he has since healed very well, and I mean physically.
All right.
I was in the process of buying a co-op down in Brooklyn to move from 204th Street. And I moved down there and I started to feel kind of sick. I've been battling asthma for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I'm in New Jersey and I could, you can see the high line of Manhattan and down towards Brooklyn. There was a dark cloud hanging over Brooklyn for months. People who never had respiratory problems started having them. And I was getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know why. That would have been a perfect time to wear a mask because
Yeah.
I would have been able to not hurt my lungs anymore. And I wasn't
Right.
thinking about
And
singing
filter
because I
out.
wasn't singing at the time.
Right.
So,
Nothing was happening in New York at that time.
oh no. And I knew that soot would fall for years. And I told people, you're going to find human cremains for a long time in places you never thought that it could explode to.
Right.
Because that cloud over us was asbestos and human cremains that everyone was breathing in.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to see a beautiful day again because it was trippy. That day was so beautiful, cloudless, blue. And people just got, so when I got to New Mexico, I saw cloudless blue skies. I'm like, calm down, calm down. This is not New York. This is, you don't have tall buildings that block out what you need to see and you can't hide. So, but this is over. Just calm down. And I've learned to appreciate the beautiful blue cloudless days here.
Well, so let's talk about that. So because of your experience on 9/11, is that what brought you to Albuquerque? Is that what brought you to New Mexico?
No, because I was a diehard New Yorker by then. I thought there was more I could do in New York, because I've been, an award-winning producer. My friends invited me to be a casting director. I directed for like 6 different casting businesses. I thought I was doing good. I helped people get work. I thought there's more room for that. And I worked with union talent only. And but I also cast not only English, but Spanish, Szechuan, whatever. And even if I had to use my hands to convey what I wanted, it worked. And that was exciting for me. So nothing was happening. And an actor came in, my first casting person that morning, 9 o'clock, which is early for a lot of us. He just got off the plane and he was standing at a hotel and he said, Zenobia, we don't know each other, but I was told to give you this, business card. I said, really? What does this mean? He says, well, this is a channeler. Channeler, she's in Florida, and I was told by Spirit to give it to you. Okay. But I put it away. I didn't listen to it for a while. And my spiritual elders were saying, you need to move because you're stagnant.
Okay.
I mean, in every language. I was like, what? Okay, whatever. And I didn't go quick enough. So I ended up having a kidney stone. And I was like, oh my gosh, kidney stone. I thought I was going to die. So I said, you know what? I got to move. So I went to go check out Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and Nambe in 2008. And my friend said, okay, I have friends in New Mexico. Let's go check it out. And then, of course, I discovered my friend Tone Forrest, the bass player up in Santa Fe. We had a band together in '74 in New York. And he said, oh, yeah, well, when you come back, we're going to have a band. And I'm like, I am not looking to have a band. I don't want to sing. I don't want to. I was just like, and so we left. And I got sicker and I needed surgery. I said, you know what? If the elders are saying that I need to be out of here, I need to be out of here. I don't know how the heck that's going to happen. But as soon as I said that I was ready to move, my co-op sold for the exact price that I wanted to sell it for. The movers came in and helped me. I mean, I was really spacey when it came to packing. The one mover looked at the look on my face and says, don't worry, ma'am, we'll pack everything. Well, when I landed, after driving, I drove cross country here. They took my motorcycle. They did everything. I opened up a box that says kitchen on it, and I saw this furry blue ball. And I'm like, I don't have any furry blue balls. The cats don't play with a furry blue ball. And I picked it up, and it was a lime that I cut open. He packed everything.
He packed everything. Everything. Oh, that's funny.
I was still like, I lost a big agency job at 53 because they said I was too old. They said I took too much work out of the agency, which was bull because out of 200 sessions, I took maybe 9. People didn't want to work in the agency all the time, but they wanted to be out. And that's how you hear what's going on in the street. So they wanted to keep me isolated. And I said, no, that's not true. And I discovered that I really was my job. I defined myself as a producer.
Okay.
My intuitiveness was able to direct and because I was an actress, I could love them up when they walked into my sessions. No yelling, none of that BS. I even had Dick Cavett even showed up to one of my casting sessions, and Lynn Carrier. I wanted to say out loud, "What the fuck are you doing here? Everybody who's anybody should know who you are." But some clients, they'll hire you as an expert, but they'll question every move you make. Oh, well, let me see, Lynn Carrier. Oh, he played, the barber on Broadway. It's like, okay, man, you don't know enough. But I felt so hurt from losing that ad job, and then being a casting director, and the people I worked with, Stark Naked Productions got me going. And Stark is Elsie Stark's last name.
Okay.
And, but the joke of Stark Naked, it was just beautiful. And they turned me on to other people. Other people called, "Hey, we need a cat." Oh, Zenobia. And it was just so incredible. So when I decided to move, the last casting director I was working with, I was like her number three person. She goes, "I know you're moving, but I want you to be my number two," meaning she's one, I'm two,
Right.
until you leave. I was like, "Oh my God, I got some guaranteed work until I leave." She saved my butt. And then, I moved. I moved here, and the next day I heard chickens, roosters, horses neighing. I was like, okay, I'm here. I don't know what's going to happen. And what happened since has been incredible.
Well, yeah. And I have looked at it. So you're a singer, you're a producer, you're an actress, you are a director. What did I leave out? Because you have such a large resume. We've talked about all the instruments you've played. You have your finger in the pie of everything, don't you? I mean, what else did I leave out? What else do you do like I said, singer, writer, producer, actress? What else did I leave out?
Oh, I was assistant stage manager for Godspell. Does that count?
Okay. Now, what about here? What about here? What else do you do besides all the performing and all the other things that you do? What else do you do here that somebody might not know about?
I would lie and say, "Oh yeah, I knit and crochet," but that's a big lie. I'm not that talented. I wish I could greet people in the restaurant and sit them to their table and make sure that they get the food that they ordered. I can't promise that. But through my activism, anti-war activism, activists from young age, this is what you don't know about me. I'm an interfaith minister.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I went to seminary.
You're an interfaith minister at a particular church here in town?
Oh, no.
Your own. Tell me more.
People need to reach out to me if they need something.
Okay.
I went to a two-year seminary class in New York City, and I bring people together. I was like, what am I going to do with this? And it was right after 9/11 that I went into seminary. I'm like, what can I do with this? And I realized I bring people together. Okay. I bring Catholics, Jews, Muslim, Goths together to make a family.
Okay.
And to be connected.
Okay.
And that's what I loved. And so what I started doing, I became a Reiki practitioner also. Originally was to serve animals, because I helped an animal walk. I don't know how I did, I just laid hands and someone said, "Oh, that's Reiki." And I went, "Oh, I'll study it." But the same friend whose dog I helped walk called me into the hospital, says, "Mom's dying. The doctors say she's going to go anytime." And I ran up to the Bronx, and I had her sisters go around the bed and hold hands and breathe together. And I cleansed her spiritually and all that kind of stuff. She opened up her eyes 2 days later and lived another 8 months. I said, well, I didn't do it. I became a vessel. So that's what I was doing. And then I helped some people transition in New York. And when I come here, there are some people that have touched me so much that I made a promise to be by their bedside when it was time to go. And I can tell you that I feel that that's on the path that I've been walking, is to serve.
It's amazing. You have such a unique background, such a unique diversity. The things that you have seen, the ideas, the ideals that you have been a part of is a very unique experience. Because if you think about now, you went through the late the 1960s into the 1970s. You went through the 80s. You went through the 90s. You went through the 2000s. That big circle of everything that you have experienced has made you into who you are today, which I am finding out so much about you. This is absolutely amazing. Now I can see why everybody said, no, you have to talk to Zenobia. Now I know why.
Well,
So let's talk about some of your performing, because you're a very versatile performer. You play everything. I have watched some of your YouTube videos. I hear you playing gospel. I hear you playing jazz. I hear you playing rock. I see you singing what is it? Folk music. Is there anything that, I mean, do you do just about everything, or do you just do what you want to do and that kind of falls into that category?
well, I think again, it's what is presented to me,
Okay.
and I think it's divine through the people who approach me.
Okay.
Um, there might have been a time or two when someone's approached me to do something, and I go, "Oh, I don't think I can do that," but because I best want to serve the situation. But I can't recall what they are at this time. I did tell you that I am not in the medical field. I will never be in the medical field. I just learned my body parts when the doctor says, Zenobia, this is your hip. Oh, that's my hip. Okay, thank you. Why does I know nothing?
But the thing is when so like here's a prime example. You have an album that came out in 2015 called Resurrection, and it was, correct me if I'm wrong, is it independent release?
Yes.
Okay, so it was an independent release. Um, I had a chance to listen to it. It's very unique. It's very fun to listen to, and it wasn't what I was expecting. Did you, when you went in to record this, what was the idea behind it?
That I had some songs left and I wanted to be able to make a mark touching spirituality. I deemed the CD as contemporary gospel.
Right, but it's not.
I guess not.
It's
No, not if you're
not.
looking. Not if
No,
you're looking at a Hill song. I mean, with the electric guitar. That's not me.
I know, but I'm saying it's not, it's labeled as contemporary gospel, but I don't, a lot of those songs are not to me contemporary gospel. I find it to be a very versatile album. It has a little bit of everything on it.
Yeah, there's some I have a Yoruba chant in the song at the end of the prayer. My musical husband, J. Boy Adams, I sang Bottle in the Bible. He wrote about his drunken uncle. Um, but there's a spiritual element that was there that I wanted to just put out.
Okay.
And, I have another one I'm working on, and it's going to be mostly blues because I hurt so much from what's been going on.
So your album, it won the 2015 New Mexico winner for Best of the Year from the New Mexico Music Awards. That's quite the accomplishment, if you ask me.
It was. I was dumbstruck. I went, they said my name. The year before, though, the gospel song, One More Night, won the best gospel.
Right.
So actually, what happened is a writer needs to be quiet or have quiet surroundings. And an extension on this house was being built. It was not quiet. And the only studio I had was in the kitchen. So I found a place that had like 1,100 acres up near Las Vegas, New Mexico. And it was a personal retreat. It was women owned land. And there was going to be one caregiver on the land. And they didn't have anybody else staying there. And it happened to be a woman who I knew from New York, who I directed her play. I got out of the car and she goes, "Hey, Z." And I went, but she understood that I needed quiet. I didn't want to disturb anybody. And I wrote 11 songs in 8 days. And I wanted to be the songs for my musical that I have yet to write the book. I cannot find a book writer for this project because I saw Queen Latifah is going to play the star on Broadway. I'm not sitting there thinking, no, no, no. I mean, she could. She rides motorcycles. And this is about a motorcyclist. And I thought, oh my God. So I came back with all these songs. I'm like, what am I going to do with it? And I said, well, you know what? Put it on a CD. And the character, she comes from a Christian background, but she's just trusting in God and the elements. and the human connection. And that's what
Right.
I wanted to convey.
Okay. And I'm so happy that it won the best of the year because of it. This again, the album is not, I just think it's labeled wrong. And I don't mean to sound that in a bad way. It's not, to me, it's not gospel. I mean, it's just, I think it's a way of you just saying what you needed to be said.
Thank you.
I really do. I really think it was just something you had to get out of your system, something you had to say. So now I know I saw it available for purchase. Is it on any of the streaming services? I couldn't find it anywhere.
I think the CD Baby still sells it. iTunes. I've
Oh, it
seen it
is available. See,
on.
and I don't have iTunes, but so I didn't see it on Spotify and I didn't see it on Amazon Music Service.
Oh, really?
So you need to make sure, you should make sure that it gets on Amazon, not Amazon. You need to make sure it gets on Spotify is what you need to do. You need to get it on Spotify. And I don't ask me how, I don't know how, but you should get that on Spotify
All
because
right, I'll check.
it would get people listening to it. Because I went looking for streaming services, and again, I always ignore iTunes because I don't have iTunes. So,
Mm.
and I didn't see it on Amazon. Now, it was available on Amazon, but it wasn't available on their music service, and it wasn't
Oh,
available on Spotify. So, and
on the
I
internet?
could be completely wrong. So, who knows? So let's talk about some of your music now. You said you're working on another album and stuff. Every once in a while, I see a performance with your name. I see a billboard, I see a promo with your name on it. You don't perform on a regular basis, though, do you?
Not in Albuquerque.
Okay, where do you perform on a regular basis?
Well, I do go to other states because one of the gifts that I gained was being introduced to J. Boy Adams at
Okay,
Evangelos in Santa Fe.
okay.
And then I've been in Texas. I put over 40,000 miles going to Texas to play in the West Texas Hill Country
Mm-hmm.
area. And we've played in New York because we had an opportunity to back at my stomping grounds. And we even went to Europe to play. I got to grow and meet people
Mm-hmm.
who have become so dear to me. It's not about their politics, it's not about the religion. It's just that these people, the heart connection. So
Yeah.
that's where I've been singing up until, and actually I just came back a couple of days ago. Uh, there was a time last year I just couldn't sing with J Boy anymore in the band. I was broken. Uh, the depression from the pandemic and from a bad hip just touched everything, and I couldn't make sense. And again, Tracy Whitney helped me get out of my depression. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't tell her, "Hey, Tracy, I'm depressed." She just kind of sensed it and just like, okay, she'll see if it include me in things. New Mexico Jazz Workshop, Maud would call me and go, "Hey, you want to teach another blues class? To get me out of my stuff." I mean, no one really knew.
Right.
It was just like they kind of knew,
Huh?
woo, and they helped me. But I we had an Easter Sunday service that I started with J Boy a couple years ago in Waring, Texas, and I started doing a church service with Pastor Bill Couch, Episcopalian minister,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of talks like me. He's into the spiritual stuff as well, not just quoting the Bible, but he knows
Mm-hmm.
how to tell a story. And so he called me and said, "Listen, we're having an Easter service. Do you want to come?" I said, I can't. And Bill thought it'd be an impossibility to do this without me. And I'm like, oh, I know how important this is to him, but I just couldn't. So J Boy called me and he sensed there was something going on with me that was deeper than just, I don't want to sing anymore. And we talked about it. He says, girl, because when I don't sing, I do get sick.
Mm-hmm.
So he got me back out there. I did a Saturday night performance, which I didn't know I had the vocal chops for, and I did. And then Sunday service with the pastor couch. And oh gosh, now I understand. But will I listen? I quit music several times in my life, but even when I quit it during advertising, I was producing it.
Right.
I had people in my sessions like Ron Carter, David Spinoza, Steve Gadd. All these people brought this music to me. Singers, Phoebe Snow, Valerie Simpson. and the people that I love, whose names you will not hear on the surface, but I'm also planning a podcast, and I'd like to introduce them to you because they helped keep music. Music, I can tell you, music saves lives.
Yeah.
If you let it in.
Yeah. I agree. Wholeheartedly do I believe you, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. So now we're running out of time. Normally at this time, I would ask the question of a funniest gig or funniest story, but you know what? I don't need to because you have so many great stories. You said before we even started, you were like, I don't have any stories for that. Are you kidding me? You have so many stories. So let me just wrap this up because I love talking to you. Listen, I want to thank Zenobia for being here in New Mexico. I want to thank you for all the people and all the things that you touch, both spiritually and musically. And ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you next time.